Let's be real. Aging isn't for the weak because aging isn't easy. There's physical, emotional, social challenges. And why do we as a culture treat aging as decline instead of kind of a natural transition? So, listeners, what's been the hardest part of growing older for you? And welcome to another episode of Unfiltered Friday here at the Men of the House podcast. And with you is yours truly, your favorite Irish Mexican. You may not have heard that one in a while since those beginning episodes, but it's me, Richard. And for the viewers, you might notice I have a little blanket over my legs because I am cold. I don't know why, because it's sure as hell wasn't cold here in Texas earlier. I can tell you that. When I was at the park for my walk, it was a little warm. Yeah, I think it's still like 90s in October. Here in Texas, I think Halloween is always kind of the test, because Halloween, it's either warm or I can remember one Halloween, like walking through the neighborhoods and freezing, like my feet were frozen, like by the end. So we're what, 28, 20, 29 days away, 28 days away. So we'll see what we get. But yeah, I'm a little cold. So for the viewers, you'll have to put up with the blanket. Any hoodles, let's talk about aging, retirement, and meaning. And there's a reason for this episode, and there's going to be more to come on that in the future as you continue to listen and follow. But yeah, oh man, when I was with Buck, occupational therapist, he would come and he was also a pastor, which I loved. And he'd always say, "Yeah, my daddy will always say, aging ain't for sissies." And ain't that the truth? I'm only 49, approaching 50 next year. And yeah, aging is a mofo. Know if I'm sure most of you understand what that means. I know if you younger generations use that. Y'all are using cap and Riz and Raz and whatever else y'all say these days. But yeah, aging is a mofo. That's motherfucker. For you Gen Xers, if you, in case you don't remember, and for anybody who are the other generations, mofo equals motherfucker. That's right. Aging is that. It's tough, Growing up, you always hear that whole health is wealth saying, and as a young person, you're like, yeah, sure. When you're old, health is wealth. Then all of a sudden, you're the old person, and you're like, ah, shit, yeah, health is wealth. Which is why, if you're part of any of my accountability groups, you'll see me exercising most days, if not every day. I take a day off here and there as needed. But yeah, you as you age, it's everything just takes a little bit longer, you know. And if you guys have been following my journey, over the past couple years, I've lost 64 pounds. And, part of that has been exercise. And with exercise, you can incur injury if you don't stretch or you put too much on. Man, I don't know if it was 22, 23, somewhere around there. Had a little too much weight on the rotary calf machine, and I heard a pop, and I had my headphones on with music blasting, and I could audibly hear the pop. And I immediately got up, was burning, was looking to see if my calf muscle had like rolled up into my up near the back of the knee, near the hamstring, and it didn't, but it it did something. And I can tell you, I walked. I had to wear like I had to get like a sleeve, and then I had to walk kind of all crooked with my leg, like at a 45-degree angle. Probably look like somebody from The Walking Dead, like one of those zombies or something, like dragging your foot kind of sideways. And it was months. It was months. It took a while. I mean, that messed with me delivering. Um, oh, yeah. Holy moly. I can remember this one time I had to deliver 100 pounds of dog food and with that bum ass leg. And it was brutal. Not fun. Picking it up from the store or getting it out for the person. But it took months to heal. And then once I healed, it was my gait was all messed up. And that's GAIT, not GATE, not the thing you shut, but your gait when you walk. That's what they call it. Then I didn't walk straight because now I finally could, but you know, you walk a couple of months dragging your foot at a 45-degree angle. Now your hips are kind of that way. Um, yeah. Then you kind of have to walk. You have to learn to walk normal again with your feet facing forward. But it messes up your hips, which messes up your back. Um, it, yeah, your body compensates, and then to work things out while it's healing, and then after you're healed, you gotta uncompensate and go back to normal, and that's just as damn brutal. So I'm not out there trying to set PRs and lift a bunch of heavy shit. I'm just trying to stay strong, um, capable, competent. I'm not trying to be the strongest or the buffest. I'm just trying to stay healthy where I can maintain, you know, normal activities and some excess. I want to I've done some marathons and, you know, I train, but, I'm not putting plates upon plates when I bench or squat or anything like that. So, yeah, keep that in mind. But, that's kind of been, in a way, the hardest part for me is like the healing. Everything just takes a little bit longer. Hadn't had a tattoo in 12 years until I got this one for my daughter. And, it just took a little longer to heal. That's all. But that's kind of how everything goes. What else goes on with aging? So that's some of the physical challenges. Let's talk about some of the emotional and social challenges. Well, let's say, for instance, put it together like this. My wife and I met when I was 29. I believe she threw me my 30th birthday. Um, Socially, we were quite different. Um, our behaviors, our who we hung out with, the things we did, and um, emotionally, our relationship was growing. We're in different places in our 30s, chasing. Nah, I wouldn't really say chasing careers, but just working, doing life, um, doing the whole. You go from an apartment to a house, and maybe you make a little more money, you get a little more secure, stuff like that. Um, Now I'm at the end of my 40s, so it's quite different uh, emotionally and socially. Our relationship is further along. What we talk about is different. Socially, we're not going out to clubs and bars and stuff like that. Although for Mother's Day, I did take her out to a comedy club and her birthday. So we still like to have fun, and I still go to shows. I still go to concerts, both for entertainment, my soul, and to meet people. Shout out Alex and Ryan McCauley. If you haven't listened to Ryan's episode, he makes handcrafted pipes here in Texas. Go check them out. Smoking Briar Barrels or Smoking Barrel Briars, one of the two. But cool dudes, um, great episodes, and that's why I go. And so, yeah, I don't have as many friends, but like I have my best friend Andrew, who 42, 43 years of friendship since we were 6 years old, first grade. Evan, shout out Evan, he's a listener. We went to kindergarten together all the way up, and he's been listening to the podcast, and I talked to him, which I enjoy quite a bit. And, you know, I would say Scotty G, yeah. Um, the people you talk to or hang out with, I feel like the relationships are more meaningful. I feel like when you're younger, it's quantity. You have like a lot of acquaintances and maybe a few close people. And the older you get, you have less people, but maybe they're all kind of close. You're a little more open with them. And they're all around my age too. So we share some of the same things. But yeah, I spent the past couple years, it's like you drop 64 pounds, you go from 9 prescriptions to one, and then your body changes, and now you had to add two, hopefully temporarily. Hopefully they're not permanent issues and they're just temporary things that going on. But yeah, different things start happening to you physically. I mean, it just kind of is what it is. We're not cars. We can't just go out and buy a new one. Um, Medical technology is improving, so in a way, you can kind of take that 72 Chevelle that I so love and make it a little modern. You could probably put new chassis, or I think that's what they call it. You can do the engine and fuel injector or whatever, I guess. But, we as humans, yeah, maybe you get a new heart, new lung, new kidney, and, with all the injectables coming into play, we can extend life, make things a little more mobile, agile, lubricated, and whatnot. But, you know, this is this is the one thing we get, and we have to take care of it. Especially I would say your feet. You only get one set of feet. It's like the tires on your car. Imagine if you could never change them out. Um, Maybe our equivalent is shoes. So wear good shoes. Take care of your feet, especially if you're on them. You can tell the difference where your money goes um, when you buy some good shoes. So yeah, those are kind of some of the challenges that I've had up until the 40s. Um, and then I've had the privilege of helping other people in their 60s and 70s, and even Buck when he was in his 90s. And yeah, the challenges get different. For those of you who know Buck's story, it's like he was independent. I mean, on a walker, but he lived alone, dressed himself. My wife would go over for 9 hours a week and clean and, maybe cook them some stuff and clean, take them somewhere. But it didn't take very long, and he never walked again, because they didn't ambulate him in the rehab hospital enough. They didn't put him on the walker. They kept putting him in a chair. Um, and once you lose it, it is so hard to get back. I mean, every day I feel like, oh, I'm tired. I don't want to exercise. I don't want to go for a walk. It's like, do it while you can. One day you won't be able to, and you'll wish you had. It's like thinking about Buck. The last 3.5 months of his life were between the bed and the wheelchair. No walking. So take advantage of it. You have to work to keep it. You have to hold on to it tight. It's going to be painful. It's going to be difficult. But if you do, like they always say, like pull ups, if you're new to pull ups, like you might get one, maybe not even one. But if you practice them, I can remember where I couldn't do one pull up and then I had to do assisted pull ups. And then at some point I was doing 3 sets of 12. And my boss used to always say, no, they're not hard if you do them. Well, walking is the same way. Staying up. It's not hard if you do it. But if you don't, and you don't do it on a regular basis, you lose it. And it goes by quick. My dad, he's on a walker and a cane, switches between the two. Another gentleman we care for in a wheelchair. He's actually getting better, though, where he can actually stand up. But he had walked it once and had a broken leg. And yeah, man, life will get you, it will take you out. Lots of aches and pains. But it's shitty, because here it's like, why do we treat aging as a decline as opposed to like a natural transition? I mean, well, one of the reasons, like I remember hearing this podcast and they were talking about using, oh, it's one of those diabetes medications. It's like the most popular one. Um, Starts with an M, maybe. Um, but he was talking about like that and resveratrol and different things to extend life, and how like a lot of these treatments aren't covered by insurance because aging isn't considered a disease. It's considered a natural process, and therefore insurance doesn't want to pay for supplements or anything to keep you alive longer. I guess unless you're sick. Yeah, they'll sure as hell kick out for that, but they don't like to kick out for prevention or making the world healthier. Yet they like to decline every fucking claim. I mean, they declined Ben Askren, a double lung transplant, the insurance company. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. That is the other reason you have got to be proactive and take care of yourself, because the healthcare system is fucked. It needs a major overhaul. It's capitalist driven. Um, yeah, I mean, any business, yes, has to make money to stay in business. I fucking get it. No money, no mission. But I mean, you know, a nonprofit CEO doesn't need to make 500,000 or more. Um, yeah, we'll stay out of that. But let's just say you need to take care of yourself, because insurance, doctors, those places aren't going to cover it. Although there are tons of new services and stuff popping up. Of course, they're mostly self pay, but they're coming across new things in different places. And if you listen to podcasts, wellness podcasts, I mean, it's growing. Research. Um, they're opening up other alternatives like psychedelics for PTSD, stuff like that. And so, yeah, I don't know how I feel about, I feel positive about it. I just wish it weren't reserved. Health shouldn't just be sick people. Health shouldn't, healthcare shouldn't have this negative connotation. I feel like healthcare should be this positive thing that everyone, the same fucking way you take your car for an oil change and new tires, like that. It should be like, check in, do your thing. I think certain things, I guess, if you have insurance, should be covered. Um, do I feel like healthcare should be free? I don't know about that. You look at some of the places that try that. Um, I don't think their success is much greater, but surely there's somewhere in between a model, a hybrid model. Um, because, I mean, let's just face it, if we had healthier people, we might have happier people, equals less days off work for companies, less sick days, all that kind of stuff, less healing. But then you kind of get into the whole free will thing. I mean, if somebody wants to drive through McDonald's and eat a day's worth of calories at one of their three or four meals, then they have the freedom to do that, you know? But that is not contributing. That's going to make aging way more difficult. And that's why aging can be difficult. Part of it is we just make poor choices. But as we've seen too, some of the choices we've made have been kind of directed, indoctrinated, brainwashed into, like let's say the food pyramid. You know, you should have all grains or whatever, tons of carbs. Um, and who made the food pyramid or who funded it? Probably the grain farmers, whoever. Yeah, there's always some sort of interest in that way. There's always some sort of motivation. So we don't want to leave it up to the government, certain media sources, or, it's just time to be skeptical about what the fuck people are telling you. Um, and whether or not they have your best interest in mind. Think about it. Um, like my daughter, I want to tell her, don't touch the hot stove because I have her fucking best interest in mind. I don't want her to get hurt, but, some of these companies, maybe they have our best interest in mind. Somebody who makes a good shoe, maybe somebody who makes a healthy meal, um, certain products. But then there's other products. Who receives the benefit? You know, I'm all for some sweets, some pastries, nourishing the soul. Just not all the time. But yeah, look at who's benefiting. Look at who profits. And that'll tell you who's driving the information and telling you what to buy, what to eat, and what you should be doing. But yeah, so put your care and your aging in your own hands. Starting today with this episode, aging is a bitch. So help yourself out, especially if you're a younger listener. And if you're an older listener, just start with a better decision. You know, each time you open your mouth, you have the ability to say something nice or something negative. Each time you open your mouth, you have the ability to put something positive in it or something negative in it that's going to harm you. So, yeah, it's moment by moment. But then I think I started off asking you guys, what has been the hardest part of growing older for you? I don't know what it is for me. I don't really feel much older. I think the hardest part has just been, hmm, maybe the world getting crazier. Just in certainly some, yeah, the world going bonkers. Um, New norms. Some things are for the good, some things are for the bad. I'm certainly, I definitely like things that make life easier and or conveniences and or better products. Um, but of course, you know, there again we lead into the manipulation and who's benefiting and who's trying to push their agenda. And I think too, for some people, one of the hard parts that's been challenging is just watching those you love age with you, pass away, losing family members. Um, the dynamic changes within the family. Responsibility shift. You start thinking about other things. Um, Man, look at the economy. Housing prices going up. That's hard. Um, yeah, just things changing, inflating, health issues, politics. I mean, you are getting older, you are aging. Those are things that are happening, not necessarily physical, but social and emotional for sure. But then, what do we all strive for? You know, we're all looking for happiness, um, fulfillment, ensuring our kids, watching them grow up and have kids and being grandparents and um, trying to make sure that they avoid the pitfalls that you had. Although the world sets them up with new and different pitfalls, given AI and everything else. Um, yeah. So I'm 50. Let's say 15 years. Well, I'll be 65. Um, they keep raising, is it, they keep raising the retirement age or something like that? Or there's going to be no Social Security. I know for some of you who might be older listening, living on a fixed income, that might be difficult. Um, if you suffer with a disability on your own Social Security disability and a fixed income, and maybe you can't work and you want to work, that's challenging. I can tell you, since being laid off in 2025, the older I get, the less I apply to corporate jobs. Um, Ageism. I think that's a real thing. Why would they want to hire a 50-year-old with a master's when they could probably hire some 24-year-old whippersnapper for cheaper and no experience and lot more longevity out of them and probably more apt to not rock the boat where I think older people with a little bit of experience, maybe you know a little bit more, but a little more cantankerous, a little more willing to rock the boat, a little more willing to call shit out, a little more willing to go, fuck you, that ain't right, I'm not doing that, kiss my ass, take a right and fuck all the way off. Yeah, that's part of aging. um, for me, out there Ubering, driving around, seeing younger people's lack of enthusiasm, lack of, uh, I don't know. It's kind of like a personal sense of pride type of a thing. Like, no matter what you do it the best. Like, if the only job you can get is McDonald's, go in there, fucking slay it, and you'll be managing the place, or it'll launch you to your next place. I mean, when I first started, I wanted to work in restaurants, and I had a guaranteed job at Pizza Hut. When I was thinking of culinary school and restaurants, Pizza Hut was not what I was thinking of, but it was a guaranteed job. Then I hit McAllister's. I worked at Pizza Hut and McAllister's at the same time. Got tired of working two jobs because one manager could never fucking show up on time. The opening manager for Pizza Hut. And I was like, I got two jobs. What's your fucking excuse? You lazy fuck. And so I quit. And instead of working that shift before McAllister's, I went down Restaurant Row in Gainesville, Florida, and ended up getting a job at Chili's. So then I quit McAllister's. So it was like I had two jobs, and then all of a sudden I had one job that was better than two. And I was actually going to start learning to cook stuff. And then I transferred from Gainesville to Boca Raton Chili's. Worked with a guy at Chili's who respected me, and he went to a finer dining restaurant. And when they needed someone, he said, I know a guy. That was me. And then I went there, ended up being the expo there. It was a great gig for a long time, and that sent me to like another place. But yeah, you see how it works. But that's only, you know, because I went in there and gave it my all each time. If it was making pizzas, I'm going to do it the best. You know, I didn't get a fucking master's degree because I'm a fucking slacker and don't know how to work. Okay. So if that was in there, that was in there then. um, but I just took that to making pizzas. And I just don't, everybody's got this attitude of like, well, I'll put out $30 worth of effort when I'm at a job that, or yeah, no. If they're paying you 13, put out the fucking, like, you're worth 30. That's how you get to be worth fucking 30, okay? Hey, hey, hey. Yeah, that troubles me. I mean, I talk about it all the time in the ER. Like when I worked in the ER, I was like, I got a base pay of like 13.67, and then like a night differential of a buck 50 or something, and then a weekend differential of $1. But I didn't, people didn't come in and I'm like, well, I feel like I'm worth $25 and they only pay me 15. And so you're getting $15 worth of care. That's the level of care I'm giving you. No, no, it's not how it fucking works. So that's been the hardest part about aging for me, seeing the different generations. But, the world's evolving, it's changing. Um, I don't know for the better. Some things for the better, some things not for the better. But, there's going to be, I already know, I mean, there's kids and people out there with capabilities to take us into the future, hopefully on a positive note and make things better. But as that speaks to aging, as we get to this crossroads here, you know, it's shifting the lens and like people start retiring and these younger people are going to come in. And, I don't know how that works. Are the young people like, all right, old people, we know better than you. Get the fuck out of the way so we can do our thing. Or will it be like a transfer of information of like, hey, should this happen, you might need to know this. Like, I don't know, like, you got to know how to do downtime procedures. When never failed, Saturday night, the witching hour, 12 to 3 in the morning, IT wants to fucking upgrade the hospital's computer systems, and the ER has to write shit on whiteboards and paper charts and all that. Um, because it's the most convenient time when nobody else is working. But knowing different things, different skills, if the younger people and the older people, if they don't communicate and transfer some of that knowledge, it gets lost. It's like thinking about like if you listen to Jocko's podcast and his products and Origin, and you follow that whole story, bringing kind of like American manufacturing back and how they bought this old loom. And, I can't remember exactly. You'll have to find the episode or something, but, you know, there wasn't many people that knew how to operate that thing. And, that knowledge is getting lost. It's the same of people make new shoes or cheap shoes or this or that, the other. It's like, um, how many cobblers do you know? How many people do you know that do shoe or boot repair? I mean, I had a couple of pair of Rockports for a long time that were just so comfortable. Instead of buying new shoes, I'd go get them resold. Um, it's harder to find these days. Um, People aren't thinking about that. You know, these other generations are, used to when it was you want to grow up and be maybe an actor or a rock star if you were shooting for the stars. Or you might want to be an astronaut. Get it? A little double one there. Double dad joke. Um, but it's like now every kid wants to be a YouTuber. Nobody's saying firefighters, law enforcement officers, be a soldier. Proud to be an American. I mean, I graduated high school year early and couldn't wait to go in the military and get the fuck out of here. It's like I know there's a whole world out there. Let me go see it. So yeah, and only if oh yeah, I could have retired at 37. I'd been retired for 12 years now. If I just kept my mouth shut and stayed in the military for 20 years, I'd be retired. But clearly at a young age, and you would still have purpose and shit you want to do. So, finding purpose post retirement. You see this a lot A lot of the podcasts I listen to, Mike Drop, Sean Ryan Show, some of these veteran podcasts, um, you get a lot of these people there um, are cleared hot. They get medically retired, and now all of a sudden they don't have a purpose. Maybe they got shot. Maybe they can't contribute to the team anymore. Maybe they're at a crossroads like, hey, they signed up to fight wars and now they're going to have to fucking fly a chair and a desk till they retire and they don't want to do that. So they get out and now they need a new purpose. Otherwise, you know, sitting on the beach drinking vodka sodas or pina coladas is only good for so long, or having nothing to do, but man needs purpose. And so, a lot of these veterans, they come out and their whole purpose was taken away from them. Sometimes voluntarily, sometimes by an IED or a gunshot. Um, and then all of a sudden, now what do I do? And then you go out into the normal world and civilians, it's hard to adjust when you go to a place that's very organized, very formal. I mean, I even had trouble with this working in restaurants in the 90s. It's a certain culture. There's a lot of yelling, a lot of cursing, a lot of hierarchy and position. And then you go into today's world and everybody's butt hurt over everything, over the truth. So, yeah, but, that's just one little piece of it. But purpose, you take that whole purpose away. Me. Let's not call it retirement. Let's call it the layoff I had. I didn't have purpose for a little bit. And I kept applying to jobs and turned some down. And at some point, you're like, oh, I don't know. I wanted to keep my daughter here, and then I'm looking for other stuff, looking for purpose. Buck came along. That gave me some purpose. I felt like that was totally in my wheelhouse, totally my purpose. I prayed about it. Um, I was more than happy to do that for him. But yeah, I needed my own purpose. And part of that was because my identity was tied to healthcare and manager and this and that. And it's like, no, once I just realized I identify as kind, caring, and compassionate, and the way I serve is different, that kind of solved that. But, you have to think, I mean, our other girls, their grandpa, UPS for 38 years. He stopped driving and then it was like he got sick. Had a series of hospital stays. And, maybe these were things he didn't address while he should have while he was on the road. But, I don't know. I don't know if it's the purpose. But then all of a sudden, like, your identity's tied up in that. Military members, they were a Navy SEAL, an Army Ranger. Now what? Now who am I? Well, it's, who were you outside of your career? What hobbies and passions and contributions do you have? Um, how do you spend hours once you were away from work? What qualities do you have? I identify with my goal and mission is to be kind, caring, and compassionate. How I do that and to serve, how I do that just takes different forms. Um, you know, Uber is passionate for me. Doing Buck was passionate for me. You got to find something new, something different. I started podcasting. That gave me purpose. Um, it gave me something that I needed to be accountable to each week. Figuring out a topic, recording it, editing it, putting it out. Listening to podcasts was kind of a hobby of mine while I was Ubering, but discussion has always been a passion. Life, figuring out life, the meaning of life, what the fuck are we here for? Especially if it's chicken today and feathers tomorrow. I mean, you can spend your whole life chasing something you never get. Um, I don't know. I've seen a lot of deaths, so my views are different. It's always been a fine line of how much effort to put forward to, or how deep to chase something. Mm, especially if you're not passionate about it, because life is fickle, precious. My grandma would say, "Chicken today, feathers tomorrow." But yeah, I find purpose in many different things. Identities. What was I besides a fucking practice manager? I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm a friend. I'm a confidant, a companion. I identify. uh, almost made me vomit. He, him. I, I, I wear a lot of different hats. I identify as a lot of different things. All male and masculine, though. All aligned with what you see the way I came out. I haven't factory. There's been no modifications, no lifts or anything like that. No extra traction. But yeah, post retirement, I think about I think about our other kids' grandparents, and uh, he didn't really take on it. Yard work, projects, maybe spending more time with one another, getting on each other's nerves, buying new cars. But usually, like as the grandparents retire and get older, the kids get older, and the joy is doing it for them. They're not driving as much, they don't need as much. So whether it's contributing to the kids having nice cars, um, yeah, different things. I mean, like me is I don't need much. I have a set of shirts, a set of shorts, some socks. I wear the same things other than buying new shoes, a haircut. I'd rather my daughter have it. She's the one who enjoys it. I don't need much. I don't require much. And so I feel like kind of grandparents are the same way. I mean, my dad, who's retired, and a grandfather is the same way. His joy is getting to support me podcasting, contribute to that, for him to say, I think you should, and here's some money to buy some equipment. And when nobody else would support it, he did, you know? And then him visiting my daughter and getting her stuff as she's grown, and maybe like something special she wanted, or now she's at that age she can request Apple Cash for ice cream or this or that the other. Um, and yeah, he gets she knows if she needs something, she can hit the Apple request and Pappy or Grandpa will send it to her. And he gets fulfillment out of that. And then, of course, him and I spend a lot of time together, him and my wife, because we both take them to appointments and do caregiving for them. So, yeah, that's, or when I go watch UFC with them and we, order a pizza or do something like that. So, yeah, a lot of things change, but they kind of get better. And I don't know, he's the level of conversation, like between my dad and I. We just talk about different things, real things. And that's something like you, if you're an older listener, think about that. You were that age once. And think about when your son was a little kid and maybe you hid the truth, couldn't tell him, or protected him for his own sake. And now you can actually have truly, um, you know, truthful conversations from the heart. So, I mean, I think, and that's kind of one of the things. I mean, it's our household is me, my mom, my wife, my grandma, and my cousin. And so it's like my grandmother gets to see her granddaughter every day. And my daughter gets to see her grandma every day and gets to see her grandpa often. She's going to know them. She's going to know their quirks because they both got some, but then both of their blessings too. Um, and then sometimes, I love it like when my wife, my mom, and my daughter go places together and it's kind of girls' night, but I'm looking forward to a point where, me and my wife start maybe dating more, having a date night, and my mom and my daughter spend time together. And maybe, my daughter asks, like, hey, what was it like growing up? Because my mom grew up in a whole different time, in a much poorer time in rural San Antonio when they used outhouses. Like, I don't think my mom's like, she didn't wear shoes till they moved here when she was, I don't know if she was 9 or 12. And my uncle Leroy was very young, but yeah, they didn't speak English, wear shoes, used an outhouse, ate rice and beans and tortillas and whatever they raised or killed, pigs and deer. Made tamales every year. That was the Mexican culture. Then they moved to East Texas, and amongst the white men and the oil boom, and it's time to assimilate. Therefore, I got shorted on speaking Spanish. Thanks. And my mom's made her whole living life as an interpreter. Yeah, I could still be speaking, but in Spanish as an interpreter. Not had to do some of the bullshit ass jobs I've had to do. Some were good, some were bullshit, and some were just the people. Think about it. People at the tops of a lot of places. I mean, they got there because they didn't make any waves. They didn't rock the boat. They're easy to get along with. They go along to get along because make no mistake about it, whether it's board members or shareholders or whoever the fuck is out there pulling the strings, behind everything, whether it's these all the riots you see, all the Ten Commandments in the church, and there's lots of old oil money, probably secret billionaires and shit who aren't in the public eye that people don't know about, who are healthy donors and contribute to all these agendas that do nothing but divide us. But yeah, it'd be interesting. I want my daughter to have that time with her mom and her dad, and because my dad would tell me about. But when I was a kid, they still had Big Chief tablets. But he would say that's all we had, and we got upgraded to like Trapper Keepers. I think that might be back now. Yeah, that was the cool shit. But yeah, I don't know. Depending on what age you are listening to this, it all applies different. If you're in my age and you have parents who are in their 70s and 80s and they, you know, have good days and bad days and medical problems, or some of the people we've cared for who fail to thrive and they don't want to live anymore and they're on dialysis and they're like, fuck it, I just don't want to do it anymore. I'm fucking tired. I don't want to do it anymore. And you gotta have a conversation with them. Sometimes it's got to be a heartfelt one. Sometimes it's got to be up to them. Sometimes you gotta fucking treat them like physicians and make them think it's their idea and they'll fucking do it. As long as they think it's their idea and they fucking get credit for it. Because, you know, some doctors think they're all that and a bag of chips. I know a few that are. Don't get me wrong. I know some good doctors, but I also know some really shitty ones. Um, and they think just, yeah, yeah, whatever. Fuck them. This ain't about doctors. This is about grandparents and aging. But depending on what age you're on, you might need to motivate them a little bit. You need to show them their value. You need to make sure as a parent you're fucking making an effort to take your kids over there to spend time with them. All right? Especially if they can't drive. You can't fucking expect them to do it all. And even if your kids don't want to go, fucking make them. You're the adult, they're the children. One day they're not going to be around and they'll wish they had. My set of grandparents on my dad's side and my mom's side were way different. Like, I think when I was 6 or 7, my dad's dad, Grandpa Shorty, was in his 80s already. So, and he might have passed away at 88, 85 or 88. And so I was probably like 10 or 11. And on my mom's side, my grandfather passed away in his 80s, but this was like a couple of years ago, now, maybe 21. Yeah. So, yeah, well, I was in my 40s. So, huge difference. Of course, my mom comes from that Catholic background. And, they don't believe in contraception. And it's just it's just a way different time. Well, my grandpa Shorty, he had, my dad comes from a family of 13. I think there was like two families, and maybe his first wife passed away, and they had like, so 5 or 6 with one wife, and then another 5 or 6. So, yeah. But he was born in the 1898 or 1901. I don't know. I just know that they his name was J.G. Shorty. They called him, well, his name was J.G. Kraft. They called him Shorty. Um, Said the J.G. was just J.G., maybe named after a famous preacher in Virginia, Georgia or something. In the early days, I don't know, but I like the name. Maybe I'll come up with my own line of edibles and call them J.G. Shorties. But yeah, my grandpa Shorty, man, it's like if I had been older and he'd been different because he was sit on the front porch with the walker, straw hat, pipe, dipping. But he played banjo. He played in all the juke joints around here, um, local. And, I wish I could have learned, like, heard him play, got, or shared that with him, wanting to start to play. I mean, I did a great interview too. Alan Meisner. Go listen to it. Is it episode 40? I don't know. But what I do remember, he talks about this as a grandparent and maintaining your fitness. He talked about his grandchild was kind of standoffish, and he's like, oh, like, I know he likes SpongeBob, so I'm going to pull it up on the tablet and show it to him. And, there's little things like you need to get down on their level sometimes when you're talking to a child, but it's like, he didn't want to sit in his lap. He was kind of standoffish, but the grandchild was playing in the floor, and he's like, I laid down in the floor with the tablet and started watching it, and it changed the whole dynamic. But guess what? He can get on and off the floor as a grandparent. That makes a difference. So part of like aging, getting in shape, depends on what kind of grandparent you can be. Now, if you're an older grandparent and you can't get on the floor, but let's say you got older grandkids, surely you have something in your head of this is something you should absolutely never fucking do. Or if you ever get the chance to do this because I wish I had. Or to give some encouragement and say, I wish I'd had tried that. Or if they had had that in my time, I would have tried that. This time for like cutting people down, telling them they can't, I don't think they can, fuck all that. I came from a Mexican household and everything was, it's just different, and you know my story. I was always told what the fuck I couldn't do or what I was never going to be able to do. Because you're short, you're brown, you're whatever, have asthma. But yeah, you can do a fucking lot. The world needs some encouragement. Encourage them to go outside. Hey, when I was a kid, we used to fucking go outside. We didn't have video games. What'd y'all do? We built a fort, built a fire. Show them how to build a fire, even if it's in your front yard. Take some kindling, take a small build. You know, if they're 13 and you're 80 and you can't dig, have them fucking dig a hole and build a rock pit. Maybe make a little fire pit. You can sit around and tell stories. Something that's not on a device. Something that's, can you play guitar? You could sit around a fire and play guitar and sing. Harmonica, do you have a skill like that? My grandpa could shoot a slingshot. I remember I had a slingshot one time. He's like, let me see that thing. He's like, we used to kill rabbits and shit with this because, I mean, that's what they had to fucking do to eat. I shit you not, my grandpa took that slingshot and ding, 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 fucking knocked over everything. Like, he'd never fucking missed a beat and hadn't picked one up in a while. I was like, holy shit. But it was cool, you know? You just don't see that anymore. But, like, that's what they had to do. And that's fun. I'm a Gen Xer. I grew up half outside and half in the computer game, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. Don't base your value on your age, what you can do. Um, I mean, wisdom, resource. Wisdom equals resource. Encyclopedias, remember encyclopedia salesman? Rotary phones. Maybe a funny story. I don't know. If you're an old grandpa, maybe tell a dick and fart joke to your to your grandson. I don't know. I'm 49. I still find them funny. Um, I don't know about the younger generations. The everybody needs a hug, everybody gets a trophy shit. I don't know about that. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for encouraging and positivity. Um, and no, I don't think everybody should do everything. But I certainly I believe in sensitivity to emotion and mental health. I believe mental health is a real thing that just because you can see a broken arm and you can't see what's going on in somebody's head, but um, I don't know if some of mm, it's gotten so fluffy that it's hard to dial into the core. Kind of, um, we know that our parents didn't know everything. We know that shit's been evolving. We know that certain things now weren't good for us, and while they're not our fault, it's our responsibility. And sometimes our parents didn't know better. We can't fucking blame them. Um, so we got to cut out that shit, but we got to figure out how to move forward and together because it's just different times. Resources are different. Everything is different. You know, this is a curious question when I was making my talking points here is, you know, why does society undervalue lived experience? You've never been in a situation till you've been in it, unless you know somebody who's been in it and they know how to deal with it. Here's a good one. What mistake do you wish the next generation wouldn't repeat? What failure taught you the most that you'd be willing to share openly? Ask yourself those questions. Ask your grandparents, your parents, those questions if they're still alive. My parents try to tell me what to do all my fucking life, so they've already told me what I wouldn't do. Well, one thing wasn't podcasting, but I think I'm onto something that kind of I got something coming up you guys will hear about in the future that it takes me and wraps it into one and provides meaning to me. And this is why we're talking about aging. Um, yeah, there's always legacy. Legacy's kind of a thing. I think of leaving legacy actually. Some people leave legacy in name, which can be good or bad. Bill Clinton's. You think of the Clintons, you already think of one thing. Lizzo. I think that's one. Um, the person she ate, or if she ate someone. I don't know how that joke goes. I just know that everybody got offended by being called Lizzo, but supposedly it was so positive, and they were like, "Well, why is it? You know, whatever." Um, Charlie Kirk, legacy. Joe Rogan, legacy. Names. Standing up for something. Dying for something. Dying for what you believe in. For free speech. Fucking Diddy, the diddler. Fucking legacy. Hmm. But you, hopefully, if you're listening here, you're a level above all that bullshit. And even if you had that money and influence, um, that's not the way you would fucking act. Because if you would, turn this shit off and go listen to something fucking else because that's not what I'm about. Relational, spiritual. Um, yeah, I was having this talk with my daughter. I'm working on, I wanted to do, I got some coaching certificates, which will be useful. I have a master's in healthcare, a bachelor's in health and kinese, and I've been a personal trainer. I've worked in the ER. I've managed primary care clinics that had urgent care and all the other visiting service lines. I was a live-in caregiver for Buck. I still do some caregiving here and there. Um, but I want to build something because I still go visit some of these people I've helped, and sometimes just to visit. But I'm working on something that, with the podcast, and a few other projects that I want to fold my family into so they don't have to participate in corporate America and contribute to problems. And hopefully I can leave a legacy of something that, I was riding home with my daughter and we were stuck in construction and it was the best. And three or four people told me, do not fucking go through there. It is construction. And my dumb ass said, I know, I know, I know. I know. I'm the smartest. I'm the best. I know, I know. I know you got it. Got distracted because I had asked my daughter, do you want me to pick you up something when I pick you up? She just goes, no, come and get me. And then she like says, I'm hungry. And that diverted my attention. And we ended up, and my wife's like, oh, don't worry. It goes by fast. Like, con- torn up road at a four-way stop. I go, yeah, you weren't here between 5 and 6 p.m. So no, it doesn't go fast. But it did give my daughter and I an opportunity to have a great conversation. And like real, she's 11 now and she understands things different. She almost finished my sentence when I was telling her about my idea and what I want to do for this thing I'm building. And I said, I want it to outlive me. I want you something you can. She goes, that I can take over? I said, exactly. That's what I want. And because of what this project means to me, when you guys hear it, you'll understand why. You'll understand why. And that's what I want to leave with the world with a legacy. That of fucking humanity. Like Buck. Why are you Buck? Humanity. He asked us to. I prayed. Didn't take much. It was like, God, do I do this? Or it was almost like I didn't even need to ask, like I knew the answer was yes, even though I prayed about it. Um, yeah, that experience I had with my daughter, her being there for that, she understands me on a different level. And that's where our conversation, and she's getting older, she's growing up, and I love it. And so as you age, if you're 70s and your 80s, they have that too. It's about engaging in that conversation, asking those questions, talking about dreams, asking them about their dreams. I mean, man, Buck told me so much. It was the best because I had actually read books on the Great Depression as I was finishing up my undergrad. I had to fucking take that class or I wasn't going to graduate. It was my last class, summer two. If not, I was going to have to wait a whole other fucking 4 months. And that was not happening for one class. So I bit the bullet. History since the World Wars. And I thought we were going to be reading fucking World War II books. And I was excited and read about the damn Great Depression. Motherfucker. But then it was crazy because that's like 2005, 2006. You start seeing the parallels. 2008, you saw the crash. And then I got to spend all that time with Buck, and he talked about his parents living through it. Yeah. And then you talk about you just to learn to appreciate different things. And man, if you just sit and listen, you can learn so much. But I have a master's. I love school. I love learning. I got shelves of books. I got more books than I can read. I'm reading probably three or four books at a time, and everything else, consuming content like a madman. Sometimes I sleep with, or don't sleep with stuff in. But yeah, you get to decide what you want to leave: money, land, spirit, heart. All I ever want. God forbid something happened to me due to my untimely demise. As long as they're good human beings who are kind, caring, and compassionate, and stand up for the right thing. That's all I ever want, you know, for them. It doesn't matter what their fucking degrees are, what their fucking bank accounts look like. And that same goes for their partner, whoever they decide to marry, or whoever, if they're shitheads, these girls got two fathers. And so they're going to have double the fucking trouble. So, and a lot of cousins too. And they're all Puerto Rican and Mexican. So there's a lot of us. And we stick together. So fucking buyer beware of any of our daughters. Okay? Be fucking where. Mexican, Puerto Rican, both sides, lots of family. I might have been the only one not in jail or hasn't been to jail, so with the master's degree. So yeah. Um, Listen to my words so you don't have to deal with whatever they're going to bring to you. So if you happen to be dating any of our kids or ever plan to, you better be on fucking point. I love this. This is so totally me. There's a little quote here. It came up. Maybe the true treasure of a life well lived isn't titles or money, but the wisdom, love, and lessons we leave behind. I think I just said something like that. What wisdom do you carry that someone else needs to hear? What knowledge do you have that you can share and pass on? You know, that makes you valuable regardless of your age or what stage in life you're at. Wisdom and knowledge and love to pass on. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to tell you guys what I'm building. Excited to get you guys engaged and following. And this episode was a little kind of a few different places, but I've been digging through a lot of shit lately. My hair's a funky mess. Somebody irritated the fuck out of me earlier and triggered me, and I had to tell them. Um, as I've been working on myself, I can tell you if you got something to say, somebody bothers you, just if you can politely say it, um, rather than you know, I'll just stiff arm you, be a dick, and you'll never know why. So now I'm just trying to get better. If you irritate the fuck out of me, I'm gonna tell you and tell you why. and I'm trying to get better at my deliveries. Um, but right now the focus is on sticking up for myself because I've typically been a overachieving people pleaser and just fucking tired of it. So just out here trying to be real. You want real? Be real. So until next time, go out and be the person that you would want to meet. And hopefully that's fucking being real. Keep it real, y'all.